Now we're trying to encourage them to be sure that they take that class in that particular program for three years. It don't have to be 3 consecutive years, at least 3 years. Okay? So in your particular programs, also encourage your students, be sure that they're encouraged to complete a pathway. All right? And I'm going to stop with our CCRPI right now. It's not finished. All those things left to do for them to generate the score, give us our climate survey, as well as our climate survey, our climate star rating, as well as our financial star rating. Okay? Any questions about CCRPI? That's just pretty much a general summary of what we have so far. Next coming weeks, hopefully they'll roll out the final score board, including our star rating.
Dr. Gilbert,
Yes,
I
sir.
know at the beginning of the school, we didn't have all of this in. Do we have all of the scores compared with recent and state level?
We will.
We will?
Yes.
Is this something we're still waiting on?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you talking about our?
Like ELA scores,
Yes.
math scores, science scores compared to the recent and state?
Because we always want to know exactly how we're doing in
Yeah, I
comparison
know
to-
we didn't have them all. I was waiting on the ELA to see how that turned out.
All right. Okay, so what we want to do is be sure that we emphasize our instructional process. Again, we're giving teachers a bit of autonomy about what it is, how they teach in the classroom. However, be sure that what we're doing, we're coming around to make sure this is in place as well, but it's got to be effective. We got to see growth. One of the things that Dr. Evans pointed out is that you all need to make sure, when you say you all, he's talking to me, as I'm talking to you all, so we need to make sure that we look at the students that really need to be targeted. Your highest performing students, whether we teach them or not, they're gonna get it, but we're not gonna leave them isolated. Our lowest performing students, they've got a lot of resources in place to ensure that they're not getting left behind. But the group that's always, a lot of times neglected are those in the middle. So one of the interesting things that we looked at, we did a ranking of every student in the building. Many of you were part of that. I appreciate that help. But once they were done with that ranking, we looked at 50 kids that fell right in the middle, and I will present those numbers to you and who those students are. But they did research and stated that if we can take those 50 kids, concentrate a lot of our efforts on those particular kids, and we can move them, that would improve a score, affect a score like the one that we're about to receive. So let's not focus all of our efforts on our highest performing kids. Let's not even focus all of our effort on the lowest performing kids. Let's take a look at that middle performing group. The group that can be moved, because right now they're right there at the midpoint. The lower, or we can do something moving higher. So I've already identified them. As a matter of fact, you probably have more insight than I do about how they're performing in your classroom right now. But it's interesting to see this particular group in which tier they tend to lean toward. But what can we do to take that group and sort of move them forward to where they can affect our score greatly? And I thought that was an interesting point that they pointed out as far as some research that hasn't widely been presented yet, but it's very interesting. And it makes sense. So we want to move the entire school. Our best fit is to look at that particular group. So I encourage you all, let's go ahead and start to look at that particular group and think about what it is that we can do, whether it's involved in our MTSS, RTI practices, what is it that we can do to move that group, perhaps have a great influence on the entire schools on CCRPI. All right. Thinking back on some of the things that I was looking at when I first came over, one of the things that we had in place, and some of you still have this in place, to where you have a day set aside for remediation. Some of you included that on your lesson plans. Not to throw too many changes at us. One of the things I look at other schools and what is different, I looked at our scheduling. 7-period schedule versus block schedules. What are the benefits? And what are those things that we can't benefit from? I'm not saying that's where we're going, but I was looking at it. One of the things that we are encouraged to do is be sure that we keep something in place to provide a time for remediation. And even if it looks totally different from anything else that we've done, what would it look like? So it's similar, very similar to what we've already done anyway. That one day that we set aside, only thing we're doing is we're taking the schedule and altering it. So it's called a hybrid schedule. So for us, what would that look like if we want to keep it in place? Do we want to keep it in place? Some of you kept it in place anyway. But if we go school-wide, what would it look like? How often would we do it? When would we do it? So we'll need information and feedback from you all. Go to your departments, talk about when such a schedule need to be implemented. How frequently do we need to implement it? If I was teaching and I wanted to implement time to provide remediation, really personally, I would go and take care of my classroom during my small group differentiated instruction. But also it's something that affects the entire school, so if that be the case, when will we take a schedule and alter it school-wide? What would that look like? Who all will be involved? How many content will be involved?
I mean, this is something that we kind of, a lot of us have kind of just, we're talking about like differentiated instruction based off of like assessments and formatives, and that's something that like I know as content teachers, we've just kind of taken it upon us to do it as needed. Like we give an assessment, we look over the data and from there, I mean, that's in lesson plans from that point forward. You know, we'll remediate this day as opposed to where we've done it, it was Monday. And this is what everybody's doing, regardless of when you gave a test, you're gonna do this on Monday. You know, and the as needed, at least for me, has been a lot better and much more efficient as opposed to this day. Because it's easier to dictate the lesson based off of what happened in the class as opposed to setting this day and then you get behind or something because you're already having to remediate the instruction from Thursday or Friday and you weren't able to test. And then that Monday you still have to show differentiated instruction. Does that make sense?
But, Coach, sitting in with the MTSS and with Dr. Edmonds about the hybrid schedule, is, I think it's more along the lines of these kids, like you said, it's the Circle 50, these kids have been identified, and we're gonna put into the schedule classes or a segment that these kids will be placed together. They're remediated, and once they show where they can, their whatever tool we use to grade them on, once they show proficiency, then they're taken out of that and placed back in the regular.
This is something different than just like hawk time.
Yeah.
So what's gonna happen to them if we're moving on to something else and they're in that class?
Okay, this is additional support. This
Okay.
is additional. Now, they'll still be from my understanding, I could be wrong.
They'll still stay in your
Yeah.
class, but
Yeah.
as opposed to maybe going to weightlifting or something,
They're gonna be.
they will have a certain teacher and they may get pulled during, if they had Robbie's 7th period, they would get pulled with Eartha and she would be remediating those kids with what Terry did, and then in the same classroom, she could be remediating a few on what you did in biology. This group may only need, they're just getting that constant reinforcement, only on what they need constantly.
You're gonna have selected teachers has that support class. And once those kids show proficiency, a kid will be rotated out, and then some might be rotated in.
So is this, are y'all looking at doing this year or next year? Cause this year that's changing the whole schedule.
Well,
again.
The middle school
Well,
schedule changed a couple of weeks ago.
You're not changing it,
I think
Reach to 90, Broxton.
you're not changing it.
I understand that, but you have to have a teacher that you're pulling in one area to do this, that's what I'm saying, so
And
you're
see what-
still switching up the schedule.
Well, and see, we have room to do it here because we had teachers with 4 or 5 kids. And that was one of the things we discussed is you gotta look at your scheduling and you gotta look at your numbers. And right now, we do have teachers that have very small classes, that it could be combined.
And now you gotta think about if their content knowledge is in science now.
Right.
Yeah, well, you have to
Well,
make
it's
sure,
gonna be-
well, it has to be a content
It's gonna be a
person.
content teacher.
Yeah,
That's teaching that support class. It's gonna be a content teacher. But the biggest thing about the hybrid scheduling is, it's gonna affect the way we do things normally. Okay, but listening to Dr. Evans, I don't think it's a wait till July and we'll come up with it for next year. I think it's just like, as soon as we get these circle 50, as soon as we get this really acclimated, we're gonna put this bad boy rolling.
I'm just concerned now, cause I had to do the, when I did the plan for, distribution plan, if we don't have a sub available, all of my teachers have 4 classes. So I'm kinda scared, not really scared, but
But you
worried.
just take it, because we build this the way we want to and the way it best facilitate us. So let's suppose all your teachers are full capacity. All your students are on the same level. So which of your teachers will provide remediation?
Yeah.
Which of your teachers will provide enrichment? You divide them accordingly.
Yeah.
But there are a whole lot of ways to which we structure it.
Certain teachers gonna have to be identified as, and with you being the department head, who's stronger in what, who's stronger in physical science, who's stronger in chemistry, blah, blah, blah. But those kids that's gonna be identified or have been identified, they're gonna be placed in that support class.
Now, we said a hybrid schedule, again, when would that take place? How frequently would it take place? We're not saying change the schedule for the rest of the school year. We're saying take time during the course of the year to provide remediation. It may be on a particular day of the month. Maybe once a month, maybe twice a month, maybe once a week. I don't know. But we have
Testing?
yes. It was testing.
Testing.
I'm just worried, cause I need to be a visual person, like you said, I do know what my strengths and my weaknesses
Yeah.
are, and they're scary.
Now, the thing about what Doc was saying about that those 50 that's been identified, Dr. Edmonds, he went over it with us over there at TSS, and with us being a relatively small school, like he said, if you can get 50, it can change those numbers. It can change those numbers.
And I kind of
understand that,
think,
but-
I think we're past the, how do you feel about it? It's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's gonna happen.
but I think you're,
I'm sorry, and I understand that, but you have to ease my feelings first, okay? You have to ease my
It seems
feelings.
like the thing that we gotta figure out is the when and how.
Yes.
I understand that, but you gotta ease my feelings before I get my head to this.
That's where I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, it seems like you're gonna have a little say-so in the when and the how.
Right.
And that's kind of where our focus needs to go on this right now.
Terry is your voice right now because he's part of that team
Yeah.
at school.
Yeah,
So he's responsible for easing your feelings.
yeah, y'all have to ease them. It's right there.
And I personally think it would, and I think Dr. Gilbert agrees,
On that team.
it would be much easier for me if I was still in the classroom, and even now, if this had been something to decide on before we made schedules and kids got in classrooms. Because I know some kids, when you go to changing their schedule, we've got primary kids right now, their schedules are being changed and they're freaking out. Kindergartners going to new teachers in the middle of the year, I mean, that's hard, But I think we just are given this and we gotta target these 50. And I never even heard of the Circle 50 before this year. I never even thought about, I didn't know anything about RTI.
But Erica and I, we were part of the,
And I appreciate y'all, but
And they've already
I'm
had
just
their
saying, I'm just saying.
But I also, but then, like
Ashley's
I
apple cart.
explained to Dr. Gilbert, I didn't realize these are, and when you're in the classroom, sometimes you don't see it, but I know, like I mentioned to him one day, when I walk the hall and there's 3 classrooms with 4 kids in it. I mean, not only, like Dr. Evans said, that's money being lost. Not only that, or I've got dual enrollment kids. I've got 25 sitting down there in the library where Amy Brantley that are begging for a second period class and they don't
They
have
not
one.
begging.
Some of them are.
I'm begging for them to have a second hour class.
I would say, my child wants to be in this class. You know, that's gonna be, I think, our only outlet to try to shift this is using those certain teachers, but I think it's gonna be an adjustment for everybody.
I mean, is there an option of doing it after school?
They gotta go to football practice, coach.
Choose between academics and sports.
that's not priority.
But that's your whole team.
But this,
I'm just saying.
this is built
You know?
into the schedule. This is built into
Like
the
mentor.
schedule. This is built, no, it's like a support. It's-
math support, algebra.
Well,
I get it, I just wanna be within that win, and why can I sit in, when and how can I sit in on y'all MTSS?
one scenario that you just mentioned, the mentoring schedule, how that schedule is altered, this can be altered the same way. But how's it altered? How frequent? We get to decide that. How does it best benefit us?
So they wouldn't go to this class every day?
No.
Perfect.
Okay, have we done this before, something kind of like this?
Well, I think we have in
The
the
old Hawk
past.
time, the old Hawk time.
Yeah.
When you had.
We had to change a different schedule once a week.
Yeah.
And at the middle school, we used to.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking
We were
of,
with
middle
Mr.
school.
Anderson, before they took the CRCT, we did every 2 or 3 weeks, tutoring thing based on their practice test, which is a lot like
I
that.
got social study kids that struggle, otherwise, you got that rich.
Teacher,
To another teacher.
You know, they would take them for practice tests and we split them up
Yeah.
based on.
It's almost like alt time on a
Christy would
huge
get
level.
these that like were good in this, or I'd give them a struggling to write, Marshall Brown would get them. Anyway, that's
It's like they're doing a different than a halt time. It's your same 3 groups.
I'm open-minded, y'all just gotta eat my business, cause time already cut short, to make sure I kill all these standards.
So remember when
This is your,